皆さんこんにちは。ヨハン・デ・メイが語る課題曲ということで、今回 SSWW を指揮していただくヨハン・デ・メイさんをお迎えして課題曲の魅力などをお話ししたいと思います。Welcome to Senzoku.
Thank you. Thank you.
ヨハン・デ・メイさんなんですけれども、今日は滝沢直也先生にもお越しいただきまして、ちょっと英語を手伝っていただくといいますか、海外のね障害担当をしていらっしゃいます。それから、本楽で専属ウィンドシンフォニーを担当していらっしゃいます滝沢直也先生、よろしくお願いします。で、担当は伊藤康秀グリーンタイの方を担当しております。ではよろしくお願いします。
Let's start.
First of all, it's for the first time for you to see such a Japanese test piece, and I want to ask you the general impression of these four works.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure.
Back to Senzoku. It's 15 years ago that I was here for the last time. So I'm very pleased to be back, and I'm very honored to be part of this festival, including those four test pieces. Of course, I've been preparing at home, and I've studied all four pieces, and I can say in general that I was very impressed with the high quality of both composition and instrumentation.
Thank you very much. And shall we start from piece by piece for each pieces? And the Bright Morning Concert March, written by Keigo Makino.
I very much liked it. I heard that the composer is still very young.
Yeah.
But he's very, very talented, I can say. There's some very interesting harmonic elements in the piece, which I like very much. It is very refreshing. I think in this tradition, he has done a fantastic job. It's very well orchestrated. It's very well balanced throughout the wind orchestra. And it has also some traditional elements in it. For instance, in the trio, there's a little solo for the flute and then later for the piccolo, which harks back to the tradition of John Philip Sousa. Remember in the Stars and Stripes, there's this famous piccolo solo.
Yep.
So that's what Makino did, and I like that very much.
So you mean that he picked up some kind of ideas, like
so it's both new and also some traditional elements, both in one piece. And that makes it very charming and very refreshing.
Oh, great.
Maybe for you, this very quick march is unusual in Europe, I think.
Even the
How
tempo,
do you feel
right?
this very fast?
Well, we have so many different marches. We have the fast marches and the pasodobles in Spain. In the US, we have the 2/4s, the 6/8s. So I'm used to it. I mean, it's not unusual for me to hear both a fast march or a slower march. So,
may I ask you any comments for the students who played this piece?
they have to be very aware of the dynamics. The dynamics throughout the piece are very bright, from pianissimo to fortissimo. And they have to really make sure that that's all in balance. Of course, we need a very good flute solo and a very good piccolo solo for the trio. And for the conductor, make sure you have the right tempo. The tempo marking is
134?
134, which is a little higher than usual. A normal march tempo is 120. So it should be brilliant, as it says. And also the title, Bright Morning, calls for, a brilliant, fast performance.
So anything else and the students or performers should take care of?
It's all very clear. There was one thing in the articulation that we discussed There's 2 bars before B.
2 bars.
2 bars before B.
In the trumpets, there are 2 16ths under a slur. But I think the composer means da-da-da, just not staccato. That's the only thing
But
that...
the clarinet and the saxophone and moves up. But the trumpet plays same note.
Right.
So this, what you mean, right?
Yeah, so the woodwinds are slurred, and that's why the trumpets should not be staccato, I think. It should be da-da-da.
Should be ta-da-da.
Portato.
Portato.
Yeah.
Portato. Maybe the balance between trumpets and the other woodwinds will be a problem because the melody line is la la la, and the trumpets are do do do. So
Yeah. Well, they're marked the same dynamic, so that's dynamics are always very relative. What is fortissimo? What is forte? It depends on the hall. It depends on the size of the band.
Depends on the circumstances.
Yes, and also depends on how many players there are. If there are only 3 trumpets and 12 B-flat clarinets, then it's unlikely that there will be a balance problem. But if there are 9 trumpets and only 7 clarinets,
Exactly.
then the conductor has to adjust the dynamics. That's also what you have to do. But in my own works, I sometimes think, if it sounds better a little faster, please do so. It's not written in stone. And dynamics is the same thing. It depends on the acoustics, the size of the hall, the players, the quality of the players. So all those elements, it's up to the conductor to create the right balance during rehearsal.
先生、そうすると今のお話ですと、編成であったりとか、それからホールの環境というんですかね、そういうところで、
でも実際そこの会場でリハーサルができるというわけではないので難しいところですが、
そうですね、
ホールの響きをよく考えてバランスを整えましょうという話でしたね。
There's a very nice moment at K where it says eroico, where he makes a very surprising modulation, going from A flat to E major, A flat major to E major, and that's something that I've just learned from you today.
Yes, yes.
That
from Polonaise.
We are just
from
discussing
Frédéric
about
Chopin. Exactly. Yeah. So this clever young man has done his homework and he has listened to the classics and integrated this wonderful element into the piece. Like I said earlier, there's some very interesting and refreshing harmonics. And the very last note of the piece, I always like the last note to stretch out a little bit.
They will stretch.
Yes. I hope that's allowed within the rules of the competition, but that's at least how I will play it with the orchestra on Saturday. So, unless you disagree and say no, palm short.
How do you feel the melody singing, the main melody from A, for example?
Tam ti bara di 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 dam 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 tari ra 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 dam tara di di ding tari ba bam ba di. I think it's well constructed, and it builds up nicely also with the crescendo. And further on in the trio, da di ra 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 dim tara da dim tari is sort of the same rhythmic pattern. And at H we have a counter melody in the euphonium and the tenor sax, which of course should be in balance. It's both mezzo piano. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the piece. It's once again, I like it very much. I very much look forward to perform it. And
Sure.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます
Thank you very much. And the next one, Polonaise and aria for wind brass ensemble by Miyashita Hideki. How is your impression and any comments? Especially, I want to ask you about Polonaise, because Poland is very far from Japan, and maybe
Not so far
Netherlands
from
too.
More
So
familiar
maybe
with-
you know
Well-
Polonaise very well.
The Polonaise, the word is French for from Poland. And it also comes from Frédéric Chopin, who started with his Polonaises, you know. So Miyashita has written in a very nice classical tradition of the Polonaise, which is always in 3, in 3/4 measure.
Careful.
And it's also a very attractive piece. I like it very much. It has a very nice middle section. Daring instrumentation at the G, he only uses a brass quartet, 2 trumpets and 2 trombones, which I like very much. But that can be difficult for young players, you know, because it's very exposed. So maybe I think it's allowed to double the voices, to have a little more strength, more body. And I also had one little advice at G for the percussion. There is a roll in the suspended cymbal which goes to forte, but the brass starts at mezzo piano. So I would suggest that the cymbal shouldn't go to forte, but also to mezzo piano. Otherwise, he will cover the first note of the brass.
The brass
Possible.
queen.
He sort of overrules it. So my suggestion is to don't make that big of a crescendo. Just a nice roll and on the downbeat, so that we can hear the.
It's very important to listen each other.
Exactly. Yeah. So that we can hear the clear entrance of the brass quartet. And then it answers in the woodwinds at H, with a lovely woodwind chamber music setting.
May I talk in Japanese a little bit about H?
Sure,
We talked before. H のところを、全員楽器1本ずつでやったらどうかという提案がデメイさんからありまして、これはコンクールの規定上どうなのかなっていう話をこの事前の打ち合わせで行ったんですけれども、人数の少ないバンドでもこの H の部分を木管楽器だけで寂しいなということではなく、チェンバーミュージックっていう室内楽というね、そういう意識で捉えるのもありかと、
そうですね、
そういうお話です。
G のところはスコアにも、テュッティでも良いという注意書きが
そうですよね、
あるんですけども、
G の方はね、
もしそれが G が1本ずつであるならば、特にその H は今お話ししていただいたように、1本ずつでもという考え方はあってもいいのかもしれませんね。
So the form is a typical classical form in ABA. So it's Polonaise and aria, and then the Polonaise comes back again. That's the A part. And he writes for wind brass ensemble, but I assume he means wind orchestra. Could be confusing, you know, because a brass ensemble is something else. That's a group of 14 or 12 brass players. So,
because in Japanese traditional music, we cannot see 3/4 meter or 6/8 meter.
No.
So such a 3 divided rhythm is very difficult. So when we have such a 3/4 meters, we feel 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So one
Like
measure in one block.
right, yeah.
Divided.
But the European style music should be 1, 2, and 1, 2,
Right.
Like
and
in
タタ
one.
タタタタ
タカタッタ
あまりにも自然なことすぎて説明できない
す
のかもし
ごい難
れ
しい。
But of course, the one is always the heavy.
ない。Heavy, yes.
Yeah, that's where the
So we are more for 2/4 beat people.
Yeah.
Like that.
to walk on to march on. Yeah. But in this case, you know, it's all in 3, so we have to really try to get the feeling of the pulse in 3/4, and therefore the tempo is very important. I think that we're almost exactly at quarter note is 96.
And one question, how do you feel tempestoso?
Of course, that comes from Italian,
Yeah.
which means stormy.
Stormy.
Yeah.
Stormy.
I take that as going a little forward in tempo, where it says it's that letter F, tempestoso. And also dynamically, it's very important at F. It's the two-bar phrase, eh? Bum, da-da-ding, ba-da-ding, da-da-dum, 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 bum, ding, that we go back dynamically each other bar.
Each 2 bars.
Yes, exactly. And this comes back after the aria. The aria is also in 3/4, but slower. So there you have less that problem that you described in the Polonaise. So yeah, at L the tempestoso comes back. Oh yeah, it also says, the composer says non ritardando, non leggero. And we've learned that he actually means pesante. We're speaking Italian now, you know, non leggero, not light. Instead of non leggero, it's easier to say pesante.
It is interesting choosing the word
Yeah.
here.
But it's completely correct in Italian. Non leggero is not light. So the opposite of not light is heavy. Pesante. Pesante is,
Right.
yeah. Again, also very well orchestrated. Like I said earlier, with this wonderful chamber music middle section in the aria for the brass quartet and the woodwinds, and then comes a short euphonium solo, short clarinet solo. And then we go back to the Polonaise, which is introduced by the percussion, with just the timpani and the snare drum. Very subtle, very well done. The ending, unlike the march, I suggested it should be just short. On
It's
the
very
second
end.
beat. Yes, the very last measure.
Those notes,
Yeah.
yeah.
After the combrio. But compliments to composer Miyashita for this wonderful piece. It's, I think, a very nice addition for the original works for wind orchestra. And it's important that we are getting good music, you know. Good original works are very important for our future of the wind orchestra.
Yes, exactly.
We need good music. So, and here we have one. 4 actually.
Yeah, wonderful. This is a very wonderful piece. And I think the people enjoy playing.
Yes.
Retro by Amano Masamichi.
That was a surprise. It's the most poppy of all 4.
Poppy.
In a very upbeat style, extremely low rhythm, also for the percussion. And I think this is the kind of repertoire that young, especially young players, also like very much. You know, it's very upbeat, a little jazzy here and there. It's almost, he almost turns the wind orchestra into a big band, you know, which is nice. And it's very rhythmical, so the band has to be very accurate. I would add some accents here and there. They're actually quite logical, but in the brass in the beginning, you know, bam, 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 I would really give that last 8 note a good accent.
You mean style?
Yeah, not a sforzato, but a good breath accent. And also further on, pa-dam, pam, pa-dam, pam, pam, pa. That half note in the 4th bar, etc. There's some nice effects in the woodwinds, you know, the falls from, they should not be too long. For instance, at B, they should not overlap into the next bar. So it should be just 1, 2, pow, stop. And C is a half note, so it should stop at 3. Yeah, exactly.
ここも同じですね、扱い
Yeah.
方。
Then a subito mezzo piano, 3 bars later. Then we have a little transition where only the chimes play. The chimes fills up the 3rd bar,
D の直
the
前
3rd
です
beat,
ね。前の。
followed by a very charming, very chamber music section. Completely different style than the rest of the
The
piece.
changing the color.
Yeah. And then we got a beautiful trumpet solo
I'd like to ask you about tutti at the third bar from D.
Yeah.
You have an idea to play
I put a
one player.
I put a question mark over it because I think it would be nicer just to keep it one player. It's only 5 bars, so if the flute starts, you know, and then 1 bar later the other flutes join. I'm not sure if that's
このままソロのまま行ってもいいんではないかっていう。
D の参照説明、トゥッティって書いてありますけれども、一人でもいいんじゃないかという、これもねまた規定上どうなのかわからないんですけれども、でもそういう室内楽風な色彩もいいんだろうっていう、そういうアイディアでした。Now,
so of course I can't change the ideas of the composer, but that was just my idea, my suggestion to maybe just keep it chamber music style, 1 dual part.
And then move to the next section, right? E.
Yeah, and then at E, everybody plays again, yeah. Then the trumpet solo, I understand, has to be sort of in a flugelhorn style. You know, like a jazzy.
And the more
mellow sound, exactly. Not the bright trumpet sound, but the more warm flugelhorn sound. And then it's taken over by the alto sax at letter F. Then the articulation in, where is it? The fifth bar of F. I'm not sure if the composer wants regular 8th note or tada. So it's 1, 2, pa, or 1, 2, pa, da. That would be my choice, to do a dash and a dot.
Yeah.
So a little more jazzy, you know, da instead of ta.
More jazzy pronunciation is better than
exactly.
the classical style.
So those 2 16ths, that comes back 2 bars later. I would suggest wada. Yeah, in style with the rest. Then for the conga player, there's some very specific notations, and it's all explained in the score.
はい、スコアの最初のページにこのコンガの
Yeah, which is it's just how
で
you.
双方に関する記述があったと思います。
Yeah, it says heel, toe, slap, and open. Yeah, those are 4 techniques how you play a conga. And also, at the end, there's a glissando, which you use with, I think, with a wet thumb. You go over the skin of the one of the congas, and you get this glissando sound. It's the same what you do with a tambourine. You know, if you have to make a roll with a tambourine, you go.
フィンガーロール
You always see the player go. Zzz.
So there are many challenging for the percussion students.
And then comes the
Not only percussion, but
yeah. But again, also this piece is very professional, written for every instrument, also for the percussion. And then comes the crossover section. Be aware that those, like in K, the second bar of K,
K のところ
you have the triplets with half notes. And often it's possible that people play more pam, pam, pam. That the last one becomes too short. Make sure that the triplet is equally in the pam, 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 tang, tang. 3 against 2. It's a common mistake that especially young players, they play ting, tang, pam. You know, long, short. No, gong, 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 gong. They should be all exactly the same rhythm. The same length, I should say.
この3連符もね、なかなか我々苦手なとこですね。
あとはこれは音楽の向かっていく方向によってのここの K から L に抜けていくこの203連っていうのは作り方がいろんな形があるかと思いますね。はい。Anything else?
No, I think the players will very much enjoy this piece. It's very upbeat, you know, has a good vibe.
はい、ありがとうございます。じゃあ、マーチペガサスの夢課題曲4になります。稲口徹さん。6 meter march. Pegasus.
Yeah, so another march, but completely different than the first one in style, and also in meter. It's the 6/8, which also is has traditional elements. You know, the 6/8 march is very common, especially with John Philip Sousa. You know, like. All 6/8, and I can't think of the names right now, but he has a lot of marches in 6/8. Yeah, and what I like the best is the ending. It's so surprising. I mean, almost every march ends loud. You know, boom. No, what he does is the last 4 bars he goes down all the way to pianissimo. I love it. It's so yeah.
消えていくような
Love it.
そういうところをねエレガントに演奏したいですよね。
Very surprising and very original and daring too. You know, how dare you end the march pianissimo?
And such a 6/8 meter is very difficult for Japanese, but maybe for you it's a very natural rhythm.
More common.
Yes, yeah. I grew up with it. You know, when I was a young boy playing in the local band, I would play marches and 6/8, 2/4, every measure or the.
We are always discussing about 2/4 beat is okay because we are very accustomed with. But however, 6/8 beat, it's kind of the horse riding, the 6/8 beat.
乗馬のようなね。
景
気兵序曲とか
景気兵とかですね。
Light cavalry っていう
Light
の。
cavalry.
もう一回歌ってくださる One more time.
To singing, it's really
Singing,
wonderful.
Yeah, I use my.
No problem. 大丈夫。
I remember I was 9 years old as a young boy, and my mother took me to an outdoor concert. It was the National Band of New Zealand, and they played the Light Cavalry. I still remember it, and I was blown away. I was a little boy. That was one of the first moments that I realized I want to be a trumpet player or a musician. Not composer yet, but player. And composing
It's a
came
good
later, as
memory
you know.
for you.
Yeah.
今歌っていただいたの
そのビデオを何度もね繰り返して見ていただいてね、このリズム感、西洋の人たちが、あるいはアメリカの人たちがごく自然に持っているこのリズム感をね身につけたいですよね。もうそれができればこれもう OK みたいな。
そうですね。
But rhythms, you know, it's interesting that you say that. For instance, in Balkan, you know, in former Yugoslavia or Hungary. For those people, it's very normal, you know, 7/8 or 5/8 or 11/8, you name it. For them, that's so natural. They don't even have to think about it. Check it. And nowadays, more and more pieces using those mixed meters, and we're getting used to it. You know, the Armenian dances, for instance. Armenian music, you know. So, but I think Japanese players will get used to it, you know. They do just practice and play more that kind of music, that kind of meters, and they'll tackle it, I'm sure.
今の混合拍子はどこの国の民族舞踊っておっしゃってましたっけ？
So once again, which country? So you're talking about the 7/8 beat and the 5/8.
Like Hungary, Bulgaria, former Yugoslavia, the Balkan countries. So that's Eastern Europe.
ね、舞曲っていうのもね一つの拍が必ずしも均等な長さではありえないので、楽譜に表すと今ちょっとね口三味線で歌っていただいたように8分の7拍子のようなものがごく自然に感じられるということなんですよね。で例えば課題曲2で出てきたようなポロネーズがそういう拍の長さが変わるとは思わないけれど、舞曲っていうのは必ずしも均等な拍で流れないっていうこと。 これよくアルフレッド・リードさんの、ね、曲にもよく変拍子、いわゆる我々は変拍子と言ってるもの、本当は混合拍子なんですけれども、そういうものがしばしば現れますよね。それが自然に身につくようになりたい。そんなのの一つとしてこの8分の6拍子、一応均等なリズムですけれども、この感覚をしっかり身につけたいということかなと思います。
そうですね、今の歌っていただいたのも、もうすごく自然で、やっぱりちょっと我々の感覚にはないというか
ですよね。
やっぱり非常に学ぶべきところがあるなと、感じました。
Another complication could be that he using frequently the syncopations, like in the beginning. Bam, pa pa pi da, bam, pa pa pi da. So the first note comes almost at the middle of the bar, or actually, if you think in three, it comes at the second note. You know the triplet where you bam 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 bam.
これを1小節を3つで割った時には2つ目に来るっていうことですよね。
But that's only in the beginning. In the rest of the melody is just a straight 6/8 measure. And he uses the duplets, yeah? Yum pam 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 yum pom 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 pom, which is 2/4. Yeah. So that should be no problem. But for the players, be very precise on ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. But we, now that you know where it comes from, you know, the source is from Soupe, light cavalry, leichte Kavallerie. Also a very nice trio at letter L with an important counter line in the euphonium. And again, we get this syncopation at, is it I or J? Let's see. Oh. Excuse me. I, yeah, Isaac. And the trombones. In pam 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 pam. All the syncopation, they should be very precise. And then again, the dynamics at the end are very important to really go from sforzato in 4 bars to pianissimo.
Niente. Oh.
On the end, almost on the end.
Niente.
Wonderful. Wonderful piece.
Thank you very much. And please give us a word to the young students who play these test pieces. Mostly the junior high school and the high school students will play. So can you give them any message?
Sure, yeah. Of course, we all had some difficult years because of the pandemic, and there must have been months or even years that you haven't played. But I hope you all came back to the band and enjoy playing, because unfortunately, in my country, in Holland, our most community bands, a lot of people didn't come back after COVID, and that's very sad. They gave up their beautiful hobby and their passion. So I hope that the Japanese players will all come back and play with even more passion and dedication than before. And I've noticed that finally when the concerts came back, not only in America or in that bands, they're sounding better. They play with more knowledge of, wow, you know, what happened to us, and we can finally make music again. And they play better. They play with more passion and more the idea how little we are, you know, and that such thing can happen to all of us, and it did. So my message is keep playing beautiful music, and enjoy. You know, music makes friends, music makes peace, and that's very important in those times, those difficult times we have.
Wonderful. それから先生、今回はヨハン・デ・メイ先生が専属スペシャルウィンドワールドで指揮をされるということで、こちらのコンサートプログラムはヨハン・デ・メイさんの作品がいくつかこう入ってますよね。ぜひちょっとその辺のあたりもお聞きしたいと思います。
最後に一つだけね、伺ってみましょう。
Of course, yes. So of course we're going to present the 4 test pieces that we just talked about. But Naoya and I and Ito-san, we've developed a program around it with some of my, as you call it, the greatest hits. That was your request. So inevitably, there's one movement of my Symphony Number 1, The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf the Wizard. Although there is something new. I made, also during COVID, I made a complete revision of the entire symphony. I changed a lot of things in instrumentation, added some bars, etc. It's a long story. We are now playing the new version, the new edition, 2023, of Gandalf the Wizard from Yui-wa Monogatari.
Yui-wa Monogatari.
Yeah. Did I say it right? Yeah. We start the program with the third movement of the Venetian collection.
Magic Garden?
It's called Magic Garden, yeah. It's based on a painting by Paul Klee. And then we have a premiere, an Asian premiere, with a piece called Triptychon, which is a triptych. And that hasn't been played yet in Japan or in China or Korea. So you will have a premiere to listen to. And probably the highlight of the concert could be Extreme Makeover, which has become a very popular piece since its creation in 2005. It was originally written for brass band, and a couple of years later I made a wind orchestra version, which also gets a lot of performances now. One interesting element is that at a certain point, the woodwind section have to put down their instrument and pick up a bottle. And those bottles are all tuned with water on a certain note. And they all have to play one note. And together, it forms the melody and the accompaniment of a big marimba solo. That's the middle part of Extreme Makeover. So,
Gamelan.
Yes, it's inspired on gamelan music, and that's why the solo went to the marimba. So, yeah, I look very much forward to conduct.
We
this piece
look
again.
for it.
Yes.
The concert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
頂戴
much.
しまして。
というわけでヨハン・デ・メイさんに課題曲の魅力、それから皆さんに向けてのメッセージ、大変にね意味深いことをおっしゃってくださいました。それから今日の SSWW のコンサートのことについても一言お話しいただきました。コンサートを楽しみにしたいと思います。ヨハン・デ・メイさんありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much.